Let's go ahead and get started. All right, hello everyone again. Welcome to the Boston Harbor Water System Plan and Water Use Efficiency Goal Setting meeting. Thank you for joining us today. Let's get started. First, some quick logistics. Your microphones and cameras are turned off by default, and a recording of this presentation will be posted on the Thurston County website along with the questions that you ask and the answers that are provided. For more information and to make online comments regarding the water system plan and water plans and water use efficiency goals, please use the link here on this page, and you can also access this page from the Thurston County Public Works webpage. Some Zoom instructions. Please use the Q&A feature to submit questions, comments, or requests for technical assistance. You can find that Q&A button towards the bottom of your page. And question and answer periods will be provided during the presentation. And when you click on that Q&A button, a box similar to this should pop up, allowing you to type in your questions or comments. Raise your hand if you would like to ask a question through your microphone, and you will be called on. And that will occur during the question and answer period. And otherwise you can type your question directly into the Q&A box and to ask via text. Please do not use the chat function. That just makes it difficult for us to track the comments. With us today, we have Tim Wilson, the Water Resources Division Manager, as well as April Lee, the Outreach Supervisor, and myself, Torrin Valdez. I'm the Project Manager for the Water System Plans, and I fill the Water Resources Planner role at Thurston County. The agenda for today's meetings begin with a quick overview regarding today's topics. Then we will provide descriptions of the Part A Water System Plan and the Boston Harbor Part B Water System Plan. This will be followed by further details on the Water Use Efficiency Program before getting into the proposed water use efficiency goals for the Boston Harbor Water System, during which we will request your feedback. The informational descriptions of Part A and Part B water system plans will provide the context necessary for feedback regarding the proposed water use efficiency goals. For a quick overview, today we will describe the water system plans that are currently in development, as well as the water use efficiency program, which is a part of these plans. At the end of this presentation, we will be requesting feedback regarding the proposed water use efficiency goals for Boston Harbor. These water system plans, once approved, will put the utilities in compliance with state laws, including the municipal water law, as well as Department of Health requirements. The plans will also make us eligible for water utility grants and loans, and will set the water utilities up for continued success. A customer informational meeting and a water use efficiency goal setting meeting are also required by the Department of Health as a part of the water system planning process. Today's meeting satisfies both of those requirements and gives us the opportunity to engage with our customers and members of the public. So what is a water system plan? Per the Department of Health, the primary goal of a water system plan is to identify current water demands and future water needs so that available resources can be applied efficiently in order to provide high quality service at the lowest possible cost while protecting community health. There are generally two parts to a water system plan: Part A, which discusses all water systems operated by Public Works, and Part B, which are system specific for systems that require additional planning. Water system plans cover management and operational practices, system planning, water system programs and policies, as well as water use efficiency. Water system plans are updated every 5 to 10 years, with Part A being updated roughly every 5 years. Getting into the Part A water system plan, it is important to note that Thurston County owns and operates 3 water systems. Those are both Boston Harbor, Grand Mound, and Tamishan. Part A applies to all 3 of these systems, so does the general plan. So what is in a Part A water system plan? Part A includes general policies and standards used to manage and operate all water systems owned and operated by Thurston County. Service area policies describe the policies for providing water service to customers and for new connections to the water utilities. Performance and design criteria describe the criteria for providing reliable and safe water service, including criteria for establishing system capacity standards, which consider water demand, pressure requirements, source reliability, and fire suppression, along with other water storage needs to meet customer demands and utility requirements. There's also an overview of the capital improvement program for all utilities. The Water Use Efficiency Program ensures that water is distributed efficiently and describes compliance with the Water Use Efficiency Rule, a part of the municipal water law, which require that all sources and service connections be metered, which Thurston County has already implemented for its utilities. The Part A Water System Plan also describes the County Operation and Maintenance Program. This program ensures that water utility is operated safely and efficiently. Qualified personnel, per Department of Health standards, operate and maintain the county's water utilities. Maintenance of all systems, controls, and components follow routine and periodic schedules as is applicable to those systems and components. Water quality monitoring ensures that water is safe for customers to consume and that any water quality issues are identified and addressed ahead of distribution. The Emergency Response Program provides the response protocols for many different emergency situations, such as fires, earthquakes, and other possible major emergencies, and includes a call-up list for notifying the appropriate parties and authorities in the event of those emergencies. The Cross-Connection Control Program reduces the potential for waterline contamination through backflow into the distribution system, ensuring safe water supplies for our customers. A Part A Water System Plan that is adopted by the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners and accepted by the Department of Health can also satisfy Satellite Management Agency requirements as well as municipal water law requirements. This is necessary to manage the county's water rights associated with each water system and for Thurston County to continue operating these systems. As stated earlier, this also makes the county eligible for utility grants and loans. Now we will discuss the Boston Harbor Part B Water System Plan. Part B plans are system-specific and are required for systems that meet certain criteria that require greater planning documentation. Part B water system plans are required for expanding systems such as Grand Mound, systems serving outside of the approved retail service area, such as Boston Harbor, and systems making additions, extensions, or changes to water source or system infrastructure. The Tamashan water system does not need a Part B water system plan at this time. Part B water system plans ensure that service is provided at the lowest cost while also providing high quality water and protecting community health. These plans identify current water demands for the water system, future water needs based on current water use trajectory, and that the available resources for the water system are applied efficiently. To ensure that water demands are being met and that water supplies and service are sustainable and of high quality, Part B water system plans also provide and discuss the technical, managerial, and financial plans for the specific system. This includes the plans and other managerial documents that were discussed in Part A, but with details regarding how they are specifically applied to the subject water system. So for Boston Harbor in this case. The Source Protection Program describes the efforts to protect water sources, which is groundwater for all Thurston County systems, and describes the Wellhead Protection Program for the specific system. The Source Protection Program also includes a list of potential polluters within the wellhead protection area and the process for notifying those within the protection area that pollution would result in impacts to drinking water supply. This helps to reduce impacts to groundwater, the utility, and our customers. The capital improvement plan for the specific water system is also in the Part B water system plan and lays out the costs and timelines of future projects, programs, and maintenance activities. This is a draft of the 2021 through 2026 portion of the Boston Harbor Capital Improvement Plan. It includes improvement and maintenance program costs for this water system over the next 6 years. We will likely need to update the Part A and Part B water system plans around 2026, but this timeline depends on the Department of Health approval period. There may be updates to these projected costs, timelines, and projects between now and plan adoption and beyond because these are estimated timelines and estimated costs for completing these projects and programs. The capital improvement plan is important because it shows that we are actively planning and preparing for maintaining and improving our water utilities over time to tackle any issues that may arise. As you can see in this table, the capital improvement plan allows for continued maintenance and improvement to the Boston Harbor water system. Now we will go over water use for the Boston Harbor water system. This graph illustrates water use in Boston Harbor from 2012 to 2019. The vertical axis, the y-axis of the graph, represents million gallons per year and is in increments of 5 million gallons. Time in years is along the horizontal axis, also known as the x-axis, and goes from 2012 to 2019. The blue columns represent the amount of water produced and pumped into the reservoir each year. The orange columns are the total amount of water consumed each year. As you can see, water production and consumption has declined overall since 2012. Furthermore, some years experience higher leakage, which is indicated by larger differences between production and consumption. Those can be seen in 2016, 2013, and 2012. Leakage has reduced drastically in 2018 and 2019 following the repair of some water system equipment and of some leaking lines. As a result of these repairs, leakage fell below the 10% of water production mark. Though not included in this data set, water use data from 2020 further supported this trend in efficient water use and leakage management. This table communicates much of the same information as the previous graph. However, this table has more details on leakage, the number of connections, and gallons of water consumed per day per connection. Gallons per day per connection figures for Boston Harbor also suggest that water use has become more efficient over time and that water is being conserved. Despite a slight increase in the number of connections over this period, water production and consumption has decreased over time overall. Distribution system leakage, referred to as leakage for simplicity, represents the amount of water that entered the distribution system but was lost. This can include documented leaks or overflows as well as apparent leaks. For the Boston Harbor water system, leakage was over 10% of water production until 2018, but dropped below the 10% mark following the repairs that we discussed previously. When the 3-year leakage average is greater than 10%, a water loss control action plan is required to be implemented for the system. Water production and consumption has decreased in Boston Harbor since 2012, and the 3-year leakage averages have been below 10% since 2018. As a result, water loss control action plan was not required for Boston Harbor. Overall, we're hoping that production, consumption, and leakage levels continue to decrease over time as the system is upgraded and maintained, and as water is continued to be used efficiently. To summarize water use in the Boston Harbor water system, total annual water production and consumption has steadily decreased from 2012 to 2019. Water leakage was above 10% of production from 2012 to 2017, but fell to about 2.5% of production in 2018 and has been below 10% since. This brought the 3-year leakage average below 10%, which has prevented the need for the implementation of a water loss control action plan for Boston Harbor. Estimated daily use per connection has also been consistently below 200 gallons per day since 2015, hovering around 170 gallons per day per connection. We're hoping that daily water use per connection continues to stay below 200 gallons per day and that leakage can continue to be addressed successfully. Finally, the Boston Harbor Part B water system plan is currently in development and should be adopted in the spring of 2022, along with the Part A water system plan for Thurston County and the Grand Mound Part B water system plan. Before we get into water use efficiency, let's take some time to go over any questions regarding the water system plans.
We have one person with a question. David Hartley, I'm going to go ahead and open up your mic in just one moment. Please feel free to ask your question, David.
Thank you very much. Yeah, David Hartley, I'm a member of the Boston Harbor Utility Advisory Committee. I heard the word hope with regard to declining usage and improved efficiency. And I guess, yes, we all hope that. We have very few years of record showing a declining usage. And my question is the county making a decision of any kind or a recommendation based on a very few years of data showing a decline in usage with regard to our system capacity, for example, to serve households, a number of households?
Thanks, David. I appreciate your question. No, not necessarily. We would definitely want to consider the previous years as well, but we, of course, want to, I guess, celebrate the fact that water has been consumed more efficiently as of late. But just because a few years have been efficient, we don't want to kind of just conclude that water will just continue to be used at that level, and which is why we are trying to set those water use efficiency goals, which we will discuss shortly. But yeah, Tim, do you have anything to add to that as well?
No, I don't, Torrin. I was just trying to recall how many years worth of data is being considered as part of the water system plan, and I think I would have to research that and before I could speak to that.
Yeah, in the Part A water system plan, it's from 2012 to 2019, and in the Part B water system plan for Boston Harbor, I believe it's around 10 years, if memory serves correctly. But yeah, David, we definitely don't want to just take the past couple of years as the new standard and run with that. We definitely want to consider previous consumption as well, and how we can plan around that.
Thank you.
And I just want to make sure that I answered your question fully and that there's nothing left on the table that, excuse me, needs to be covered.
Oh, thanks for that consideration, Torrin. I guess, specifically, we have a system capacity in terms of equivalent residential units that's been established. And what my question was going toward was a concern that the county might be considering raising that limit. We're currently at our capacity. And I just wanted to remark that all the climate change information we're getting is showing that we can expect some more extreme conditions, both in terms of winter floods and in terms of summer droughts. And so witness the extreme heat that we had this summer and the attendant watering needs that occur when we have such extreme heat. So the concern in the long term and the future is that we not get overextended. And by extending, not get overextended by increasing the number of equivalent residential units that we serve by extending our service beyond where it is today.
Got you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, those are definitely great concerns and very, very valid. As a part of this water system plan, that we're not necessarily considering extending that ERU limit, as from what I understand. Yeah, and Tim, just again, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't think so at this time, Torrin. Great question, David, and we will note it. And if there's any follow-up, we'll follow up with you.
Super, thank you.
Thank you, David. Next, we have Frank Swinky, forgive me, who would like to ask a question. I'm going to open up your mic, Frank.
Yeah, thanks. I was just wondering if there's an industry standard associated with an ERU's volume of water usage per day.
Thanks for your question, Frank. As far, I'm trying to remember, you caught me slipping on that one. I might have to get back to you on that number. I apologize.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was some sort of a standard that we're trying to meet, or if there are some variables in there that make that not possible for some reason. I mean, we are an irrigation and a potable water kind of a combined system. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can follow up with you on that one, Frank, if that's okay.
Yeah, also I wanted to add, historically, I've been on this committee a long time. I'm also on this utility advisory committee, but historically, this system leaked like a sieve. We've gone through a process over the years of three sets of meters to see if we're getting properly metered, and I think with Kevin's help, since he's been on board, we've really plugged a lot of holes in the system. So relative to David's comment, I just don't know how useful that information is, except to say that our starting point was pretty horrible because our infrastructure really leaked quite badly. So there you go. Maybe there's some historical documents that you can see, and anyhow, I'll let you folks see if you can dig farther historically.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and the water use data that was shown in that table and in that graph really showed some of that leakage that was addressed. I believe there was a meter issue also during that time, and that along with the leaking pipes, which we want to continue to address to make sure that we're not losing water that we treat and put the effort into distributing, and and conserve some of the costs associated with that. So yeah, that's definitely on our radar, and we want to continue to address those issues.
And Chaz Dreyfus has asked a question over the Q&A. He says, are you factoring in continued development in the Boston Harbor area in our projections?
Yes, to a degree. We know that we've pretty much, for the Boston Harbor system, have reached the connection limit, though some of those certificate of water availability are still out there and haven't been established in terms of a connection that's in use. So that is one part of our factors, and we want to make sure that we're considering that when we're looking at future use as well, and not just based on the number of use connections at the time being. In terms of numbers beyond that connection limit that was established some time ago, that at the moment isn't really on the table as far as I understand.
Are there any other questions from our attendees? Looks like all our hands are lowered.
Great, thanks, April. And yeah, Frank, I'll follow up with you on that ERU question, and I could send that to the UAC as well, the Utility Advisory Committee as well, just to get it out there.
Hey, Torrin, I just want, am I still unmuted? I think
You
I
are,
am.
yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I don't want to hold up your presentation if there's going to be another opportunity to ask a couple of questions related to the assessment of our capability with regard to providing fire protection, and a couple of other issues that we on the committee noted when we reviewed an initial draft of this Part B plan. So I will hold those questions until later, if that would be helpful to you, or is this our one and last opportunity to ask questions?
There is another opportunity to ask questions towards the end of this presentation. However, we don't really cover the fire suppression portion specifically. But if you would like, we can hold that question till the end, and if that's
and that
okay.
would be fine with me if that's convenient for you.
Sure.
And there was another question that we had related to source ownership, which we raised in our comments on an initial draft of this Part B plan. The records, and again, I want to ask the question at the appropriate time, consistent with how you're presenting today. So maybe you could just, if you wouldn't mind, let us know what topics you're going to be covering going forward so that we can ask the questions at the appropriate time, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. Pretty much all that's left is a discussion on water use efficiency and the water use efficiency goals that we are proposing for Boston Harbor, and then next steps as well. Some of that kind of closing information.
I see. Okay, so then maybe this is the right time because these don't necessarily relate to the water use efficiency goals and approaches.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay, so the source ownership question goes to something that Zainab Najati mentioned to us when she was still with the county, that in our capital plan, there was a fairly substantial expenditure projected to refurbish a well an older well in order to keep that water right current per the Department of Ecology's requirements. We're currently not pumping from that well. So that's $500,000, I think, that was in our projected need, which is quite a substantial amount of money. In looking into the ownership of that particular water right, and that's was listed in the draft plan, what I noticed was that the owner or the permittee, if you will, is an entity called the Boston Harbor Corporation, whereas the active wells that we're using are Thurston County Public Works is listed as the permitted water user. And so I'm just wondering if that is in our portfolio as a water source, how we clear up the basically the ability to use that water if we should need it, or to use that well when we don't have the proper record of, I think ownership is the wrong word, but the right entity to control that water or use that water, A, and then B, Do we really need to spend $500,000 to refurbish that well? Because that is quite a lot of money and could be a substantial hit on our users in terms of a cost.
Yeah, and that's a great question. I remember that being asked, and we're still kind of looking into that one along with our consultant to make sure that we are aware of the requirements we need to meet, as well as any kind of steps we might have to take to make sure that that is under the public works ownership or what the correct verbiage for that, and that we aren't planning on something, we are making sure that we aren't planning on something that we don't really have. From what I understand, that those water rights, or from what I have learned in my short time here, those water rights do belong to us, but we want to make sure that that is the case and that we aren't setting ourselves up for a big surprise further down the road. And with regard to the wells, we have been doing some research into those as well, those existing wells that aren't currently in use. And so that is something that we are trying to include, are going to try to include in the Boston Harbor Water System Plan, that Part B, when it's updated, or at least some update to that regarding that to the Utility Advisory Committee.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like you're muted,
Yeah,
Dave.
David, I muted you real quick just because we have other attendees who would like to ask questions as well. So one of the questions that's been waiting that Chaz would like an answer to is, the question is, if we're at the limit for our connections, does that mean that additional development would require those properties to have their own wells?
If and that depends on their location. If the property is outside of the retail service area for the Boston Harbor system, and they're trying to build a residential home, then yes, that there wouldn't be a connection available for them. There are still homes in the retail service area, from what I understand, that have a certificate of water availability that have not established that connection. They haven't built out that property and put a home there, for example. And I believe there are some in the outside of the retail service area and within the service area. Again, sorry for that kind of confusing language, because that was brought up previously from a UAC committee meeting, from what I understand. But I believe there's also a few CAWAs, as we call them, issued for the service areas that are in the same boat, haven't been built out, but they exist. So I suppose it's a bit tricky because we have reached that limit on certificate of water availability issuances, but not all of those have been fully developed. And so anyone outside of that retail service area, or anyone that doesn't have a certificate of water availability, would have to drill a well where possible. I mean, and of course that has to go through its own process.
And David has one more question, just one moment. You're welcome, Chaz. Go ahead, David. Thank you for waiting.
Oh, yeah. And I feel like I'm hogging too much time here, and I apologize. And this is great, Torrin. It sounds like you're aware of some of the questions that the committee raised when we reviewed the initial draft. And I think I'm going to hold off on hitting you with any more of those, since I think you have every intention of getting back to us. I will say that was a good explanation regarding the CAWAs, because I know that one of my neighbors has a lot, a vacant lot here in within the service area, the retail service area, for which there is a CAWA that was paid for when the utility was established. So there are a few of those out there, and I'm aware of at least that one. So thanks for that explanation.
Yeah, of course. And um, just to address some of the questions that were provided to Thurston County earlier this year, I believe it was just before I started. Yeah, we're looking into some of those, including the fire flow one as well, and just to make sure that we're covering our bases and not leaving really any concerns on the table, because we of course want to make sure that y'all are happy and that your needs are met. So yeah, again, we're trying to address those with our consultant. We've been a little bit understaffed here, so it's been pretty hectic the past few months. So things have been moving a little bit slowly, but I'm really trying to get these pushed forward and to be comprehensive and fill those needs. So yeah, I really appreciate all of your questions and really your engagement. It's been really great. Okay. Looks like that's it for
No
now.
other hands are raised and all of our written text questions have been answered.
All right. All right. Thanks again, everyone. So yeah, let's get into water use efficiency goal setting for Boston Harbor. So what is a water use efficiency program? It is a plan that is intended to increase water demand efficiency while also providing a safe and reliable water supply. The goals of this program are to improve water production and distribution efficiency and to enhance efficient use by customers. These goals are achieved through water saving activities and by adopting policies, ordinances, bylaws, and resolutions as necessary. A water use efficiency program is required in the Part A water system plan and should include each water system owned by the county. Now let's discuss the proposed water use efficiency goals for Boston Harbor. This is where we are requesting your feedback. So use that Q&A feature to submit that. So for the Boston Harbor water system, we are proposing that over the 10-year planning period, household usage is reduced by 3% by 2030, that average day water usage is maintained at or below 200 gallons per day per connection, and that water leakage is maintained below 10% of water production. Tamishan and Grand Mound have the same goals, except that Grand Mound has an additional goal pertaining to the Great Wolf Lodge. Please keep in mind that these are goals, and while failure to meet the leakage goal will require implementation of a water loss control action plan, failure to meet the other goals does not necessarily result in consequences. That said, we want to be as efficient as possible in the production and distribution of water and highly encourage our customers to use water as efficiently as possible. Nearly 39 million gallons were saved from 2012 to 2019 as a result of the previous water use efficiency efforts, which are very similar to these that we are proposing now. To reduce water consumption or to maintain low water consumption in your home, please continue to look for water use efficiency best practices within Thurston County's consumer confidence reports, which are distributed annually. As homes continue to update their water fixtures, water production and consumption should remain low and possibly improve. With regard to system leakage, the Department of Health recognizes that leakage at or below 10% is a realistic marker for efficient water system management that allows utilities some flexibility to address leakage without burdening the utility. And I'll pause here for a second just so you can review these goals again and submit any feedback that you have regarding them, whether that's support or concern. And I'll give a few more seconds. All right, moving on to the next steps for these plans. So next steps for the water system plans are to complete updates to the Part A and Part B water system plans in September and October of this year, during which they will also go through the State Environmental Policy Act comment processes. Then, once any necessary adjustments or updates have been made following the SEPA process and your feedback, the plans will be submitted to the Department of Health for review. This may require additional edits, but once made, the Board of County Commissioners will be briefed on their status, and then a public hearing will be set, hopefully in January of 2022. Finally, we are planning for the water system plans to be adopted and for the Department of Health to accept the plans in February of 2022. This is an estimated timeline, however, so it could change as we proceed and as we receive feedback from the Department of Health and others reviewing the plans. In the meantime, you can contribute by learning more about water conservation practices by reading the Boston Harbor Consumer Confidence Report, a link to which is provided here. We'd also love to receive feedback regarding the water system plans and the proposed water use efficiency goals, which can be submitted on the Thurston County Public Works website, a link to which is also provided here. You can also navigate to these web pages from the Thurston County Public Works home webpage. And again, this presentation will be posted online, so you will be able to access the links from there as well. So before closing, let's go over any remaining questions regarding the water system plans and the water use efficiency goals or water use efficiency in general.
David's typed a question and he's asking, are we doing anything active to achieve that 3% reduction goal?
Mostly we're encouraging and providing the information for folks to reduce their usage by that amount or whatever amount is feasible for them and possible. Yeah, we want to make sure that we're providing those resources and that those are accessible. Otherwise, at the moment, Tim, unless you have something to add, I don't know of many other efforts besides us addressing leakage in the Boston Harbor system.
Torrin, I think you're spot on. I think for now we post in our CCRs, our water quality reports, our mailings out to the utility on our website from time to time, messaging regarding water conservation and how our customers can save water. We're continuing to rely heavily upon the water efficiency standards that were passed way back in 1994. And, you know, in all of these communities, there seem to remain older fixtures that over time get changed out, and we get some savings from. The water use efficiency is pretty prescriptive in terms of how many incentives you need to apply based upon the size of your utility. And for a smaller utility like Boston Harbor, just the messaging and information typically checks those boxes.
Thanks, Tim.
David has a follow-up question and says, have we considered incentives or a conservation-based rate structure?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sorry to tag you in again, Tim.
Yeah, no problem. Incentives, yes, we've considered that. The Department of Health considers an incentive. Messaging actually is an incentive. Tiered rates for sure are considered an incentive. Giving, goodness, like historical usage on your water bill is an incentive. So a lot of the utilities that I've been affiliated with in the past with larger populations have gone into material incentives such as toilet replacement programs and hose end nozzles and all types of other incentives. But for now, we're just basically sticking to the messaging. We may consider as part of the upcoming revenue requirement study and rate setting study. If there's availability, we may have the consultant look into those tiered rates as well. So it is something we're thinking about and considering. Long answer, sorry.
Mhm. Thanks, Tim. And thanks for your questions as well, David.
Oh, thank you.
Thorin, could I ask a quick follow-up? Not
Sure.
words, but I guess I would put the question back out to David or any others. I think it was David that brought up the question of conservation-based rates. Is that something the community would support, or have you thought about it?
Tim, to be perfectly honest with you, I have not actually kind of polled our community about that. So I cannot say. With regard to incentives, my wife used to work for the city of Renton Water Utility, and they participated in something called Washwise, which you are probably familiar with, which incentivized people to buy, when they replaced appliances, to buy water efficient appliances.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, most of the cities that are tied in with LOT, there's a very active conservation program there as well that gets into toilet replacement and different things like that as well. But certainly something we would consider. Tiered rates seem to be very effective when you have some businesses and business owners as well, but could certainly be considered for a smaller residential utility like this as well.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. That was a great question. Definitely things to consider. Yeah, it's one thing to say we hope to do this, as David pointed out, but of course, with the future concerns that we have regarding climate, that's definitely something that needs to be grappled with. So, yeah, we're trying our best, and I'm definitely for myself learning through this whole process. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us today and being patient with that, and especially us providing feedback to you as the UAC and as members of the public. So.
And Frank has another question. I'm going to open up your mic, Frank.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm just curious, can we use any of our billing data in terms of usage to see if we have some anomalies out there, or whether or not the school or the park or what's our one commercial business, the marina, whether or not that there's appropriate usage there? Are there users that dwarf some of our normal residential usage that we can somehow try to target?
That's a really good question, Frank. Thank you. That is something I haven't wrestled with as a part of this water system plan. I haven't looked at, I guess, personal data, water use data, that is, or water use data per connection, and kind of seeing, well, okay, this looks abnormally high based on the use that is being reported. Yeah, and I wonder, I wonder that could be a good strategy. I just have to look into how we can apply that, and what the best methods might be to approach anyone that might be using water at a high rate.
Yeah, it just seems to me that we are such a small school of fish that
Yeah.
a one or two or a handful of users that are disproportionately using can affect the numbers pretty significantly.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely true for these small systems. And
Well, I think you can gobble up 3% if that's what our savings are pretty quickly, or go in the other direction.
right.
Or if I can just chime in, I do know that our financial services department looks for anomalies in consumption to help with potential leaks and leak detection. So they do monitor that from time to time, and if there is that sudden significant change, that we are able to access and use that data.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Does anyone have any more questions or comments on the water use efficiency goals? Or on the water systems plan? It looks like everyone has had their questions answered or comments already placed.
Great. Thanks, April. And thanks, everyone. Yeah, just thanks again for attending this water system plan and water use efficiency goal setting meeting. We greatly appreciate your participation and for taking time out of your day to attend this meeting. Here's some just general Public Works contact information, as well as my direct email address and phone number. Please reach out if you have any questions or have any feedback that you would like to provide. And also, don't forget that you can also submit public or comments from the water system plan webpage, a link to which we provided previously in this slide. Yeah, just thanks again. I appreciate your engagement and for asking great questions, and I hope to be following up with you again soon regarding these. And yeah, have a great day.
Thank you very much, Torin.
Certainly. Thanks, David.
And just to reiterate what Torin said, we'll also be posting these recordings on our website next week so that you can review them and post additional comments. And we will be ending the webinar in about 30 seconds.
Thanks, Jeff.